Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. Today you're in for a treat. I'm going to show you how to make my famous beef stew. And everybody I've ever made this stew for has absolutely loved it. I've had a lot of people ask me for the recipe, and I got it. Wait. And he keeps meowing, so I'm going to have him join the video here. So anyhow, everybody who's asked me for the recipe has made it, and they said, well, it doesn't quite taste like mine because I left out one secret ingredient. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to make it, including the one secret ingredient that I left out when I gave the recipe. So once you try this, this will be one of your absolute favorite dishes, I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Come on. Let's go. I'm gonna show you how I do. Gonna keep on till I break through.
The first step with making this stew is that you need to cut up the steak into cubes, and then you need to put it into the special sauce to let it soak for a while you do the rest of it. And I'll show you how to make that right now. As with everything else, I don't really measure anything, so I'm going to show you how to make the marinade. To make the marinade, I put in soy sauce, Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of garlic powder, onion powder, some black pepper, some cayenne powder, and then I mix it all up. Okay, once you get all of your steak, all your stew meat in the bowl, then you just want to mix it up real well. And then let it sit while you cut up your vegetables. An important thing to remember when you're making stew is that you want to cut your potatoes and your onions into larger pieces, because otherwise they will pretty much disintegrate when you cook them. Where if you're cooking potatoes to make mashed potatoes or something, you want to cut them as small as possible so that they will cook and get really soft. But with stew, you want the potatoes to be larger pieces as well as the onions so that you still have chunks when your stew is done. Pro tip, one of the reasons why it's extremely important to use a chef's knife instead of just some piece of junk knife is that it helps you to cut the vegetables better without cutting yourself. And I'm going to show you a little trick. So when you're cutting, if you keep your fingers back and your knuckles forward, and you use your knuckles as a guide and kind of just use your thumb to push this stuff forward, you can cut faster and you won't cut your fingers. I'm going to show you a really simple and easy trick to speed up the process of cutting bell peppers, and once you learn it, you'll never cut bell peppers another way. Most people will take the bell pepper and they'll cut the center out and do it that way. But this way is a whole lot easier. So you're going to take it and you're going to slice down and off, turn it around, and then you have this whole pocket of seeds. You can just throw that away, and you don't have to worry about scraping seeds off, and then you can just slice your bell peppers. Now there's not a whole lot of difference in flavor between the different colors of bell peppers, but I always like to use several different colors of bell peppers because then it adds to the presentation value with the soup or with the stew. It actually makes it look prettier. And if you care about that, then putting in multicolors makes it look more interesting. Maybe it'll even make your kids more likely to eat it because it looks fun. At this point, your stew is probably marinated long enough, and you can go ahead and roll it in the flour. And just pretty much any kind of flour. If you want to use brown flour, regular all-purpose flour, it doesn't really matter. Just mix all the flour. I usually put a little pepper and some garlic powder and a little bit of cayenne powder in the flour, and then I mix it up, and then I roll the meat in it. At this point, you want to take the meat out of the marinade and let as much marinade as possible drip off of it. And then you want to put it in the flour, shake it up in the flour, and then the easiest thing to do is to, at that point, when you take the meat out of the flour, to put it in a colander and shake the excess flour off of it before you put it in the pan. You're going to want to then sear your meat on a medium heat. You don't want to have it real hot, especially if you're using stainless steel, which I really recommend because stainless steel is good. Make sure your pan is a proper temperature by doing the water drop test. You don't need to actually worry about cooking your meat all the way through. You just need to make sure it's nice and seared. Got a nice cooked texture on the outside because it helps with flavor. If it's not completely cooked in the middle, that's not a problem because it'll finish cooking in the crock pot. But you do want to sear the outside of it pretty good so that it seals in the flavor. All this burnt stuff in a pan. You take some bourbon and you pour maybe an eighth of a cup in the pan and you stir it around and you loosen up all of that stuff that's stuck on the pan, and then you dump all of that into your crock pot, and it will help a lot with the flavor, and it'll also make it easier to clean the pan. Also, at this point, if you want to, you can make sure that you test the strength of your bourbon to make sure it's good. Actually, though, if you're worried about alcohol content, once you cook the food, it actually cooks the alcohol out of the food, and so it's not like you're going to be giving alcoholic food to your kids or anything. You retain the flavor while not having the alcoholic properties. Now, at this point, you're going to want to add probably 2 cups of water. And what I like to do is the bowl that had the marinade in it. I just like to use that bowl to rinse the marinade out, and it helps out with flavor. And then cook it on high for 5 or 6 hours. Also, I had to change shirts because I mowed and got all covered with grass while I was waiting for the stew to cook. So once the stew is done cooking, you can either eat it on its own or you can eat it with crackers, or we're eating it with biscuits. So it's really good with biscuits, and yeah, so eat it up and enjoy it, and we're having it with a nice glass of red wine. And if you like this video, or if it has helped you in any way, click like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you know anybody who would enjoy this recipe, send them a link and share it with them and help them find it. Thanks for watching, and I'll cook with you next time.